Have you ever bought something, totally believed the seller, and then realized what they promised was just completely false? It is the worst, right? Well, welcome to today's explainer. We're going to dive right into a super important foundational concept in business law. We're keeping it incredibly simple today, almost like we're learning this from square one. We're going to look at exactly what happens when someone makes a false statement in a totally everyday deal and focus entirely on the two specific paths the law takes: fraud and innocent misrepresentation. Let's get right into it. So, what actually happens when a promise is just flat out false? Picture this. You're right in the middle of making a deal. The person across from you is making all these claims, basically saying whatever they need to just to get you to sign on that dotted line or hand over your hard-earned cash. When someone throws out a false allegation or a fake promise strictly to convince another party to agree, well, the law has to step in. But here's the thing. As we're going to see, the law absolutely does not treat all false promises the exact same way. The big umbrella term for this whole situation, that's called misrepresentation. To put it in the simplest possible terms, misrepresentation just means making false allegations or fake promises specifically to convince the other party to enter into a contract. It's basically stating something that just isn't true to close a deal. But, and this is where it gets super fascinating, the law actually splits this whole idea into two very distinct categories. And it does this based entirely on what is going on inside the head of the person making the statement. Let's explore that first path. We call this innocent misrepresentation. This happens when false statements are made, but there are absolutely no negative thoughts behind them. The person making the claim, they genuinely, truly believe that what they're saying is the absolute truth, even though, yeah, it turns out to be false in the end. Their conscience is completely clean. They aren't trying to pull a fast one on you, they're just genuinely mistaken about the facts. So an innocent misrepresentation is made with just that, pure innocence. There are absolutely zero negative thoughts and absolutely no intention to deceive the other party. If someone accidentally makes an innocent misrepresentation, they're not setting a trap for you. It's really just an honest, unintentional mistake. And because there wasn't any malicious intent behind their words, the law actually looks at this way more forgivingly. It usually gives these folks a chance for rectification, which is basically a chance to make that honest mistake right. But okay, what if the mistake wasn't honest at all? That brings us to the second, much darker path: fraudulent misrepresentation, which we usually just call fraud. This is a deliberate intention to deceive. The mindset here is completely different from the first path. The person speaking knows exactly what they're doing. They know for a fact that the statement is false, and they're just saying it anyway to get exactly what they want out of you. The harsh reality of fraud is that it's fully intended to actively cheat the other party. It relies completely on using false statements and fake promises. Actually, our source material points out a really specific phrase for this. It's driven by a negative mind. We're talking about a willful, totally deliberate intention to deceive a buyer. Sometimes this even means actively concealing hidden, latent defects in a product so you won't notice them. The ultimate goal? Making a profit by cheating someone else. It is definitely not a blunder. It's a calculated trap. Okay, to really lock this idea in, let's look at a super relatable, everyday scenario from our study material. A watermelon vendor. Buying fruit is something literally all of us do, right? And it perfectly captures how the exact same transaction can either be a totally innocent mistake or downright fraud. It depends entirely on what the vendor actually knows. So here is the setup. Imagine a fruit vendor selling watermelons right there on the street. The vendor makes a very clear, very bold claim to a passing customer. He says, "These watermelons are sweet and red inside." And hey, the customer buys one based on that exact promise. But when the customer gets home and cuts it open, they find out the watermelon is actually neither red nor sweet. The statement made by the vendor was just completely false. So the big question is, did that vendor commit fraud, or was it an innocent misrepresentation? Well, to find the answer, we basically have to look inside the vendor's head. Let's compare the two mindsets. If the vendor honestly believed the watermelons were sweet and red, maybe his supplier assured him they were top tier, then his false statement is an innocent misrepresentation. He genuinely thought it was true. But what if the vendor is fully aware of the bad quality of those watermelons? If he knows they aren't sweet and red, but he goes ahead and makes that strong claim to the customer anyway because his intention is purely making a quick profit by cheating, well, that malicious intent changes the exact same statement into fraud. So it literally all comes down to two things: mindset and intent. If there are no negative thoughts and it's just an honest blunder, it falls cleanly under the legal category of innocent misrepresentation. And remember, the law usually allows a chance for rectification here, a real way to fix that honest mistake. But if there is a willful intention to deceive, that negative mind we talked about earlier, then the legal category is fraud. There's no honest mistake happening here. The outcome is actively cheating a customer for profit.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want you to ask yourself something. How do you verify the intent behind the promises made in your everyday purchases? I mean, we interact with sellers all the time, from buying fruit at a street stand to picking up a used car. So the next time someone makes a bold, super convincing promise to sell you something, just pause and ask yourself, are they genuinely mistaken, or do they have a negative mind looking to cheat for profit? Truly understanding the legal and psychological difference between an innocent mistake and deliberate fraud, that is absolutely your best line of defense as a consumer.